This is the Knock&Talk Show, an Alio first responder veteran podcast, sharing some comic relief from the street.
Hey folks, welcome to the 30th episode of the Knock&Talk Show. I, of course, am your host, Patrick Faulkner, and our guest for this episode is Kurt Ballash, a U.S. Army veteran turned magnificent woodworker. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about, woodworking with just the tip, bourbon hour, and how this veteran overcame adversity, learned from his mistakes, and grew, and now helping other veterans. Now, you're going to hear me reference in this video and audio cast that this is episode 29. It is, in fact, episode 30. And the next episode will be number 31. Anyway, stay tuned. You're going to love this one. We'll catch you right after this.
Legal Squiggles in pursuit, military and Riverside, coming into the city. No vehicle description on a Washington plated car. It's incident 2130.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 29th episode of the Knock&Talk Show. Here is season 2. This is episode 3 of season 2, or the third episode of season 2, the 29th total. And today we've got Kurt Ballash with us. And he's going to be going into all kinds of Ballash woodworks. And before we hit the button here, he got started. He promised me some pappies.
Whoa, that escalated quickly.
Didn't it now?
I don't know if I'll be able to fulfill that one by the time you visit, but I'll certainly give it a hell of a go.
Kurt is a fellow Blanton's. That's what he promised. Yeah, Kurt's a fellow bourbon connoisseur. He apparently has bourbon nights on Saturday, and I got an open invite, so super stoked about that. But Kurt, welcome to the show, brother. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate you having me on the Knock&Talk Vet Tribe and the comic relief from the street. I love it. I definitely enjoy the invite, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to meet with you and chat for a little bit.
Awesome. So give us a quick elevator introduction of Kurt and what it is that you do, kind of briefly, and then we'll get to more of that at the end of the show.
So my name's Kurt Ballash. I'm the owner of Ballash Woodworks. We are a custom woodworking business located in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We specialize in creating custom pieces of residential and commercial furniture, as well as retail goods, luxury retail goods for your home, and luxury games. I'm a 10-year Army vet, experienced combat engineer and combat medic. Served a total of 4 deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, and some other Middle Eastern countries. And here we are today, recovering from, a series of kickbacks over the last few years. Lost my wife a few years ago, and finally starting to learn how to live life again.
Wow. Very powerful introduction. 4 tours. In my pre-show notes here, you mentioned getting into woodworking because you're a third generation, right? Father and grandfather.
Yes.
And that you started doing this to help combat some of your PTSD, and releasing some dopamine, dealing with some stress, and that woodworking helps with that. Tell us more about that.
So in 2013, I got out of the military. It was 10 years, 1 month to the day. And like a lot of other guys, when you get out, I wasn't really quite sure what I was going to do. I thought I was going to be a physician assistant. I was going to Methodist University at the time. I was kicking ass in school, getting really good grades. And then I took a job contracting overseas. But between that time, like when I was home, I was doing like little projects in the garage, playing around with these tools that I inherited from my grandfather. And at first it was like just playing around, puttering around, getting familiar with the equipment again. Growing up in my dad's shop and my grandfather's shop, I had access to a lot of the tools that I had, but they were bigger, they were better. So I was relearning how to work with some smaller stuff, some smaller tools. And as I was doing that, I was noticing that the static, the overwhelming noise that kind of gets locked in your brain when you're trying to think about something or process things, it was starting to go away. It gave me that like moment of silence, like being able to concentrate while touching something, while sanding, that big long piece of wood while stroking it really good, right? I was I was able to like tone out all the noise in my head, and I was really able to have those hard dialogues with myself about what it was that I was struggling with, and it was really about identity, who I was. For a long time, I was who the military taught me to be. I was a medic. I was an emergency medic. I thought I was going to go be a physician assistant and follow that medical pipeline because it pays good, and it wasn't filling my soul. It wasn't filling me with joy, and I had to step away from that. And it was woodworking. The more I pressed into it, the more I realized that it was bringing out a better portion of myself. It was bringing out that patient, loving, kind, and nurturing father and husband that I needed to be after I got out. Because for a little bit, it got pretty sketch there for my family, and it woodworking saved me from myself after transition, and it saved me from myself again after I lost my wife.
Wow. I dabble in woodworking. My father was a professional amateur woodworker. I mean, he can make anything
Mhm.
out of wood. And over the years, I've tried, and I did not inherit that bone from my father. That ability to take something out of my head and make it into. I did a conference room table for my wife's office with an epoxy river down the center.
Mhm.
I swear I will never do that again. I used to do concrete coatings, very similar to epoxy, like the garage floor coatings that you do to protect the concrete, the decorative kind. And I was accustomed to working with those materials, just not on wood. Concrete I could do. Once I started to try to apply it to wood, I'm one of those guys that'll measure 13 times, end up having to cut 3 times, and now it's ruined. I got to start all over again. I can't do it. So my hat is off to you, sir, for having that capability, because I can't do it.
I teach 8-year-olds how to make cutting boards in a day. I'm sure I could teach you.
Oh, I don't know. If it
You,
were a
you,
dance, I'd have 2 left feet.
I mean, I think sometimes when people get started in woodworking, they jump in too deep.
Mm.
Sometimes it's good to
And not
start with
just the tip.
smaller projects. Like, yeah, like sometimes you got to start with just a tip. You got to ease it on in there. Um, that being said, jumping into a giant conference table as your first project, especially working with epoxy, is, I would say that unless if you have someone guiding you through the process, like we do at Ballash Woodworks, it's really hard to achieve what I would call outstanding results when you really don't know or nor can anticipate what's going to happen through the process. You can watch as many YouTube videos as
Mm.
you want, but there's that practical exercise portion, that practical application that, it takes time, it takes experience, and it takes lots of failure to get it
Mm.
right. Like for every
Yes.
successful project that we post on Instagram and Facebook, I guarantee that there was several failed projects before that both me, my employees, whoever came before that created that thing, had to fail multiple times to be able to achieve what you're seeing, on a retail aspect or through our social media. If you don't fail, you don't learn. I would
That's true.
say don't ever quit. Like if you generally like working with your hands, and if you don't, that's cool. There's other forms of art out there, and that's what like the purpose of our program really is. It's not really to connect you with woodworking. It's to help you get creative, because when you tap into that creative outlet in your brain, I personally believe, and I've also had that expressed to me by other veterans that have come through my shop, that it's healthy for their brain. It helps them cope, even if it's just on their own. But then it also gives them a chance to connect with other people that are creative. And then when they connect with them, what happens when we're sitting there hanging out, or if we're just sitting there drinking beers, we start talking about stuff, and some of that stuff really needs to get off our chest. And
Yes.
that's what we provide there. The woodworking is just the conduit for the connection. And we hope that you connect with individuals and that you're able to connect with that creative side of yourself.
That's awesome and amazing that you're able to help fellow veterans do that, and 8-year-olds. So I would fall somewhere maybe in a sliding scale there. Um, you ready to chase some rabbits?
Let's do it, man. I like hunting.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I've had a good number of veterans. In fact, the bulk of the guests on the show have been veterans, and most of them have been Army veterans. And a lot of the good stories, the funny ones that we all remember, comes from basic training or AIT or tech school or whatever branch your specialized training comes from. Any any stories stand out from your basic training days?
I mean,
Yeah,
so
look.
my experience in basic training was, pretty rudimentary. There wasn't a lot of really memorable moments. I mean, there were. I had a bunkmate, and this dude accused the entire platoon of stealing like shitloads of money from him that he was slowly pulling out of ATMs and was trying to send home to help his mom. Um, and he accused the platoon of stealing it. So my drill sergeant, he put on Highway to Hell, and I was walking by, and he was slamming pre-workout right as I was walking by the cadre room. And I was making my way down, and I heard Highway to Hell come blasting down the hallway. And this dude was coming by and picking up wall lockers, picking them up over his head, shaking them out, and throwing them across the room, and damaging the shit out of everything. And then it was all because he was doing a search for this kid's money. He was trying to help the kid. Well, come to find out, the kid never ended up getting the money stolen. He was lying, and we found out that he had mailed it home. And we didn't do anything. We didn't take out our aggression on him. But when they were trying to fish out the liar, I remember them putting us in MOP level 4 in what they called the war room. It was basically like a large bunk room, and there was about 85 of us in there, and we didn't get to leave that room until the ceilings were dripping with the perspiration of our sweat. It was fucking amazing. It was amazing. But in that moment, like, you get used to discomfort, you get used to being uncomfortable with other people, and you realize that you're capable of a lot more. I was almost 19 years old at the time when this happened. So I'm just now starting to figure out like who I am as a man and what I'm capable of. And this was my introduction with like, your body's capable of so much more than I ever thought.
Yeah, isn't that the whole purpose of basic training, besides the breakdown, but is to teach you what you can take?
Yeah, I mean that, as well as many other military like courses that you might go through. It's about it. Most of them, I would say, as far as the ones that I've been through, were about that same thing, is teaching you that your mind is the real powerhouse of what you're capable of, and as long as you don't give up on yourself, you're pretty good standing.
Yeah, I agree with that. We didn't have anything like that. We did have the guy that would. I was in the Air Force, but he would still fire artillery every night into his sock. And that was.
I've never heard it put that way. Oh, that's new. Thanks. I'm
You're welcome.
That.
You can't. Absolutely, it's free.
I'm lucky. I don't have little boys in my house. I'm not going to have to deal with that. I got a bunch of little girls that I'm going to have to scare away. They're boyfriends, so I don't have to deal with the launching artillery into their tube sock. Anyway, continue the story.
Yeah. So I mean, we slept on metal rack bunk beds, just like in I just had it in my head. That damn movie. The best basic training movie ever. Why am I not Full Metal Jacket?
Full Metal Jacket. Yeah.
So you could hear the, and then it was every night. And anyway, yeah. So that was. So you had nothing like that.
It's weird how following my story, like, that's the one that comes to your mind. At least I know where your head's at, man. I like it.
Okay, so a slight disclaimer. I was in the Special Victims Unit for a year and a half. So I do have a bit of a warped sense of humor when it comes to some subject matters.
I was a medic. Like, I'm pretty sure
Okay.
we might have a really similar sense of humor there.
Yes, probably so.
But so you were special victims unit.
Mhm.
That's pretty impressive stuff. The cases that you guys have to deal with sometimes is pretty mind blowing. I had a buddy that I connected with through a veteran connection group that I was hosting at my house, and he was working with Fayetteville Police Department as one of their human trafficking counter agents. And some of the stories that he would come by and just offload before going home were just grotesque. How
Yeah.
like the evil that exists inside some people is just, it makes you almost want to give up on humanity sometimes. And you're like, damn,
Sometimes.
like people like that really exist. Like, that's messed up.
Yeah, there truly are some evil people out there. But I digress. Whole different subject. Whole different podcast.
And moving on.
And
rough transition.
Yeah, turning the page. So tell me, after basic. Now I understand that a lot of Army jobs, you go through basic and AIT with the same people. They're all kind of like combined, or is that just the
For my
infantry that does that?
specific MOS, we did what's one station unit training, and that was basic and AIT was back to back. There are
Okay.
some military MOSs that go to a common basic training, then they'll go to a separate station for their advanced training or their MOS training. But for me and a lot of other combat MOSs, usually that's kind of lumped together, basic and AIT. And I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, or Fort Lost in the Woods, Missouri, depending on your remembrance of it. And like we go back to basic training, we would walk inside for training, right? And we wouldn't pack any of our cold weather gear. It would be, I went through January through May. So I was right there at the end of winter, beginning of spring. And it was like the beginning of spring. We were getting out of like into, what was it, blue phase, going from blue phase into black phase or whatever the hell it was. You had like 5 stages. Like red phase was like where they break you down. Yellow phase is where they start building you up. And blue phase is when you start getting like some of this freedom back.
Okay.
And then you go into, that's like your basic training. And then you go into the AIT, which is your black and gold phase. And gold phase is like when you're getting really close to fulfilling all the requirements of basic knowledge of your MOS and you're getting close to graduating, you'll go into more of like the graduation prep and stuff like that. So it was near the end of blue phase, going into black phase, and we walk inside. It was warm as crap in the morning, and we walk outside, and there's like a foot of snow on the ground. There's a blizzard out. And now you can't tell me that these drill sergeants at the time didn't know how to read a fucking weather report. You can't say that. Like,
No,
the
you
first thing
can't.
I do as an adult is wake up and check the weather. Like, how do I need to dress for the day, right?
Right.
Basic skills of being an adult.
Yes.
There's no way that they didn't see this weather report. I swear to this day, they were just messing with us. But Fort Lost in the Woods, Missouri, the land of absolutely, like, there's nothing there. There's this little town with a Walmart, and that's about all you got. And then you got a row of like pawn shops and tattoo shops. And then here, spattered in the mix, you might find a strip club here and there.
And used car dealerships, the little lemon lots.
With minimum 25 to 28% interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
APR. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not around a military installation.
Buy here, pay here. We'll take care of you.
Yeah, and I got selected in basic training. I volunteered / got selected to go be part of a military canine unit at the time that was developing underneath the Maneuver Support Center through a guy named Jim Pettit. He went over to the United Kingdom and he observed what the Royal Army Vet Corps was doing with their canine assets as far as demining the Balkans and the efforts that they were kind of trying to clean up some of the war messes that they were involved in. And they developed a way of using canine assets that hadn't been ever seen before. So the U.S. military tried using canine assets to do counter-explosive training back in Vietnam, but they trained them on different composition. They didn't train them on the explosive content. So when they would go out, they would always be false indicating. So they were very unreliable. It made progression of routes really slow. So the Royal Army Vet Corps developed a technique that trained them on the explosive content. And right out of basic training, I got assigned to the 69th Engineer Detachment that was just standing up. We were one of the only combat units on Fort Brett or Fort Leonard Wood. And we got sent to England for 6 months where I was old enough to drink. It was amazing.
Wow, that's awesome.
Learned how to handle dogs from the Royal Army Vet Corps, got introduced to the United Kingdom way of living, played some rugby, drank plenty of pints, learned how to down a beer in under 3 seconds from some English blokes, and learned what it was like to pinch a fag. No, I'm not talking about that. For the LGBTQ crowd out there, I'm talking about a cigarette. First time a guy comes up to me and my buddy, we were hacky-sacking. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. We were both drunk. And this guy comes up and he's like, "Can I pinch a fag?" We're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
whoa!"
I don't know what you're thinking. That's not us, man. And he's like, "No, a fag." And that's like my first experience with British lingo, and it was very comical. And that guy still to this day is one of my a really close friend. He's a successful photographer in the United Kingdom. We still talk. He's planning a trip over here to come explore some of the Civil War sites and stuff like that. So it's really amazing what some of those early connections in life, even in college for some people. For me, it was, coming out of basic training and into my first unit. Some of those connections that you make still to this day, one of the most powerful ones that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. You go years without seeing each other, and the very first day it's like you're picking up where you left off. Like, yeah, the bond is there. I've got a couple of those from my time in the Air Force and from the police department in our academy, and even high school. I'm still pretty close to a couple high school friends.
Yeah, I think out of my high school crowd, I got like 2, maybe 3 people that I still communicate with. I don't know. I got bullied a lot in junior high. I stood up for myself, and then in high school, I was in trouble 2 out of. So we actually had a 3-year high school. You went there for your final 3 years. You didn't go there for your freshman. That was a junior high. So
junior high.
7, 8, 9 was junior high, and then 10, 11, 12 was high school. So we had a 3-year high school, and 2 out of 3 years that I was in my high school, I was actually expelled by Christmas. So I had a really bad reputation in school. It was an amazing experience, because I learned apologetics, how to talk to people of authority, how to, take from a learning experience from a grave mistake. And I don't know why we started going down this rabbit hole, but we're just going to keep going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. The rabbit went that way, so we go that way.
The first time I got in trouble for I was on the school bus and we were driving to school. This was my 10th grade year, and one of the kids sitting in the back, one of the jocks, I kind of sit in the middle to the back of the bus. If we understand the hierarchy of like how cool you are in high school, like how close to the back do you sit? So right. I didn't quite sit in the back with all like the really popular kids, but I sat close enough to the back, and I was right there on the verge of like where the jocks were sitting. And one of the kids, he was kind of he wasn't a jock, but he was cool with them all. And he asked to borrow my cell phone to call my sister's friend, which happened to be his girlfriend at the time. And we got to school, and he goes, "Hey man, where's my cell phone?" He goes, "What cell phone?" "It's my cell phone." I was like, "What?" And he had his hand sitting on top of the seat. Well, my brother, right that weekend, literally the weekend before that, had bought me this brand new like titanium handled tungsten butterfly knife. Oh. So really nice one. Spent some good money on it. Okay. And I flipped that thing out, and I did just like in the movies, and I came across the back of his hand with the slash, and immediately he dropped the cell phone in the seat in front of me and let go of it. So then, trying to be smart, I hand the knife to one of my buddies. I said, "Throw this away. Get the fuck rid of it. Throw it away." Because I had another knife on me, like one of those multi-tool knives on me. Like, yeah, I'd rather get caught with a multi-knife than get caught with a butterfly knife. Kid carrying a multi-knife to school, and we'll circle back around to what the consequences of this decision are when I'm out of the military and done with my DOS time. So I get convicted, right? I hand it off to my friend. He ends up turning it over to the police. Great friend. Haven't
Good
talked to him
friend.
since.
Yeah.
Haven't talked to him since. And I ended up getting convicted of felonious assault. Very apologetic. And then my next year in school, I decided that I was going to do some LSD with some friends, and I procured it. And then I gave it to them. But because I was passing it, I was the middleman, I was charged with trafficking. So if you ever look up my record, you might find that I got charged with drug trafficking at one point. Well, that's because I was the middleman between the purchaser and giving these things to my friends. So they got me with that. And I ended up getting a good attorney. I ended up facing some consequences. I was still able to get a security clearance. I went in every time I sat down in front of anybody that was investigating me. I was completely honest, transparent about what happened. And I think that's the biggest thing when you go in front of people that are investigating that type of stuff. They're more investigating your character. They're not investigating the incident. They don't care what happened. They just want to see what you do when confronted with that. Because if you show shame, that's a leverage point that people can use to potentially, get whatever secrets you may hold, which for lowly medic in the military, ain't very many, other than, my buddy's medical record, it's not really, you're not really getting much out of me other than maybe some.
I swear I'm an A positive. I'm A positive. I swear.
So, and then going on later, so this incident following Sandy Hook, during the Obama administration, not trying to go down politics, but we seen this kind of snapback from state and federal authorities where now the way that we did background investigations changed. So I had been in possession of my concealed carry permit through the state of North Carolina for about 6 years. I think I was coming up on my first renewal. I'd just gotten back from working at, I'm applying from Kabul, Afghanistan, while working in on the embassy, providing security for our diplomats. And they respond that because of this incident that I committed when I cut some kid on a school bus, protecting my property from a bully, my CCW renewal has been denied. This is while I'm in Afghanistan with a secret security clearance, protecting dignitaries.
After having already been issued.
After having already been issued. So it was... It's weird to see, like, people talk about, like, hey, we're not after your guns, but for me it wasn't, you weren't after me, but you got me type thing. And that, I was able to go back. I ended up getting my record expunged because that's what it took. I had to go back and basically, unless if you run like a certain level background check, you won't find that my name is ever tied to those incidents. They keep control of, or they keep log of the event for statistical analysis, so they know that a young male my age committed this crime on this location type stuff, but my name has been stricken from that record. So I was able to go back and reapply, but the fact that they took another $250 of my money was kind of fucked up.
That's in the end, that's all they wanted.
Yeah, they just want more money.
More money.
They want you to ask for their permission, because they're almighty government.
Yeah. And ask you to pay for their permission. So they get
with the right for them to deny you as many times as they want to keep getting that payment to ask for permission.
Absolutely. So while down this rabbit hole, tell us more about the blokes in England. There has to be the blokes in England. Yeah, I was trying to transition. That was a very bad segue.
So
very bad.
Well done.
Yes, thank you, folks. I am here all week.
We went there as a really small team. We had 7 people that we were learning with. We connected with a couple of the military people, but their military is a lot different. Like NCOs and lower enlisted don't even talk to each other. Like they have 2 separate dining facilities. And then the officers have a third dining facility. So it's like when it comes to like lower enlisted like ranks and kind of that brotherhood that you're used to, like especially in a small unit like we were in, we were used to experiencing like our squad leaders as people that we would go out and have a beer with, get a meal with, whatever it was, like, because that's our team. Like, but the UK military was a lot different. So I really didn't get a chance to connect with too many of the military people there because I don't even know what they were into, but it wasn't what I was into. I was into chasing tail and drinking beer at the time. Like, I'm 18 years old. I'm in England. I get one chance to experience this. Well, I was
Right.
19 years old, getting close to being 19. Um, and I met a lot of really good people there, loyal people. You know, a couple of the individuals, like the gentleman that I was talking to you about earlier, like he was there if he noticed that there was some strife coming down on the Americans because the girls were dancing with us and not the English dudes. He was the dude to be like either trying to smooth it over, or he was the dude like trying to wrangle us up. And if he couldn't wrangle us up fast enough before things popped off, he was a dude popping off with us, like trying to help
Okay.
us. And this wasn't even a military dude. He was just a civilian down that way. And I don't know. Overall, I would say that, you know, my experience with the individuals that I chose to spend my time with was overwhelmingly positive.
That's awesome.
I got to play
So
rugby, and they didn't beat me up. You know, like when you're the American showing up to try to play some game with them, like they didn't take it out. Like they took time to teach me. They let me play without like fear of getting banged up and not being able to do my job and getting an Article 15, which is, you know, at that age, you know, that's what they threaten you with. Go out and play
right,
those games and get injured. You're gonna get an Article 15. And it's like, I just want to have fun, man. So
right.
they were really cool about that. There was a lot of really great opportunities to meet, you know, local civilians, as well as, you know, my instructor Bunks. He ended up becoming one of the lead instructors for the Canine Development Program, and I think he went to the Pentagon for a little bit, but I didn't follow him very much after that. There's a museum up in New York somewhere for us. I don't know where it's at
That's
though.
pretty cool. So there's no E4 Mafia in the with the
Mm-mm.
Brits.
Afraid not. But
Hmm.
I will tell you one cool thing about the enlisted bar area that we got to hang out in. If you knew what time to go in there, you can get the slot machine to hit every day. I went in there during my lunch break, and that was my drinking money. I'd throw like 10 quid, which is what they would call the pound or a dollar. I would throw 10 quid in that machine. And by like it quid, like the 8th to 10th dollar, I was hitting the jackpot and walking out of there with like 40 or 50 pounds.
Nice.
And that was my drinking money for the night. And then I would have a couple pounds left over for biscuit and eggs in the morning.
Okay.
Because every way on the way down to the kennels, after we would leave the kennels, we would go down to the training area. We'd always swing by this little shopping center, and they served the little mean little sausage. They put it on like this little bun, and then have a little egg and sausage. It was pretty good. And then we would cut it up, and that's how we would train our dogs.
Uh, Look at you in culture. You in culture.
Yeah, I tried to adapt. And what's really weird is like you walk into like one of their like little corner bodega type places, like porn isn't the same way as it is over here. Like they got girls with their titties hanging out on the front of magazines, and it's completely normal. And it's like what do we want? Like, and it's like they're tabloids essentially. They're tabloids, like what we would see on the shelf of like gossip magazines.
Yeah.
It's like entry level nudie magazines. That like some of this like culture over there is really weird. You walk into a bar and like snooker tables instead of pool tables, and the pockets are so different, so much weird shaped. They don't have that little.
And yet they can't have a movie called Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, because that was inappropriate. But they can have a magazine with tatas hanging out.
They could do. I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
get
it
it.
was just the wrong corner store. I don't know what I was walking into.
Or the right one,
They had good,
depending on.
they had good eggs and sausage in the morning, and then like whatever we had left, we would cut up and feed our dogs for treats, and that's how we would train them when we were doing clicker training. England was a good time.
Good.
It was a really good time. I got to see Lincoln Park there. I got to see London. Um, my buddy Johnny ended up marrying the girl that he met over there, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he ended up moving back to England. He doesn't come back home anymore. I wouldn't go back home either if I was from upstate New York. They got really bad snow.
They do have.
He was
bad
from
snow.
Syracuse, man. I went up there to
Ugh.
visit it one time in winter, and it was like, how do you guys even drive here? Going down these hills, you just slide into each other. Like, is this bumper cars during the winter? And everybody just gets out their car like, it's okay, I understand.
It's fine.
Because they're almost Canadian, right? So they
Right.
got those
Yes.
long O's up there.
Eh?
Uh,
All right. So 4 tours in the sandbox.
mhm. Afghanistan, Iraq, and then we were hubbed out of Qatar. We went to Yemen and some other countries around there when I was working with civil affairs team. It was, man, I had a lot of good memories. My first tour, you ever have that one moment in your life that is just like you look back on and it's like that serene peacefulness, that one moment that when all else is stressing you out, you can go back to it and relive it.
Yeah.
And something about that moment just has a way of calming you down. That's my first combat tour to Afghanistan. I'm sitting on the border of Pakistan on an OP at the top of a mountain, and it was like a Soldier of Fortune magazine. I got my back up against this rebel wall. I got RPG 7s leaning up over my right shoulder. I got a saw on my left. I'm sitting there drinking shadu chai as the sun's going down to the mountaintops, and there's these clouds rolling in over top of it. Man, it was, to this day, I don't have any pictures of it, but when I close my eyes, I can picture it. It was that kind of a moment. In Afghanistan, it just hours before that, hours after that, surrounded by turmoil, but that one moment, that one peaceful moment,
Wow.
that was a pretty amazing experience.
I don't know if somebody could capture that description on a canvas. I mean, I have one of those, but it's nowhere near like that. I mean, that sounds amazing.
It was amazing.
As you said, before and after was turmoil, craziness, probably something you would rather not remember, but in that slice of time, that heaven existed in a place of hell. That's I don't know.
What do you
Awesome.
learn from that as a young man, though? You learn to appreciate the moments that you get. Like that's what I took away from that moment is going back and reflecting on it later was, take advantage of those moments. When you're on the helo on the way to the mission, like take that moment to sleep, take that moment to think about your family, take those moments, appreciate them. You don't know if you're going to get another moment. I think about that a lot. After I lost my wife, it's really kind of going and learning to really be present in those moments as much as I can, being a business owner. Sometimes it's really hard to step away from needing that, feeling that desire, that need to connect and reach out to your audience and try to find somebody to buy your stuff or whatever it is. But you go back and reflect on that moment, between turmoils, between turbulent portions or seasons of your life. You have those serene moments, the ones that mark the reason why you need to continue on doing whatever it is that you're doing.
Wow. Powerful. But probably some of the best advice ever shared here on the Knock and Talk show. And
Oh, well, great. Now you just set
Yeah.
the bar really low.
And we're back, folks. And we're back. Commercial's over. Hallmark moment is done.
Life coaching is over. Go back to work.
We're going to find another rabbit to chase.
All right. Which rabbit are we chasing next?
I don't know. What do you recall from that time at Qatar where you were going out to Yemen? I mean, that's the only thing. The only picture I have of Yemen is the movie with Samuel L. Jackson and God, what's his name? Rules of Engagement. About
the one
embassy.
with the one about the embassy.
Yeah, that's my only picture, my only thought, my only image of Yemen.
So my time actually in Yemen was extremely short. A lot of the time I was on support because we didn't have enough. I don't know how they put it. We didn't have enough pieces of paperwork. We can only put so many people within the designated safe house at a certain time. There was only politics stuff.
Okay.
So my experience in Yemen was going to this really nice little house that had, a couple bedrooms and sitting in there for a couple days while staring at the walls and then going back to Qatar. But Qatar was another huge learning lesson in my life. I got tempted to go explore the downtown area and purchase some medicinal materials that were
Medicinal.
performance enhancing type, along with my first sergeant and one of my comm sergeants that I was with at the time. And we got busted coming back on post. This was near the end of my tour, and I got sent home early. I got an Article 15 for possession of performance enhancing drugs. So it was a learning lesson for me, but I had an opportunity to learn a lot about medicine there. I got to spend some time working underneath the special operations medical wing there. So I got to shadow and mentor underneath them, as well as kind of understand the operations that we were performing within civil affairs from a larger scope. So I started to understand the reason why civil affairs was even involved in these types of operations. I spent a lot of time in the gym, based off of me saying that I was looking for performance enhancing drugs. I'm hoping that your audience could deduce that fact that I spent some time in the gym. I was a big dude.
We are veterans,
Yeah.
So. Attention small business owners, Facebook group owners, or anyone looking for customized social media graphics or short branded videos. Check out the Faulkner Endeavor Group, our parent company and the sponsor of this episode of Knock and Talk Show. You can find us here at fegroup.io, and we do branded videos for product release, for anything, as well as social media graphics. We also do presentations and promotional ads and really anything in the digital graphics space. And if you mention this video and this episode of the Knock and Talk Show, you'll get 20% off your very first order. That's right, 20%. That's a lot of cheddar. Again, check out the Faulkner Endeavor Group, find us here, and let us know what you think of this episode. Thanks, folks. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
So if I wasn't eating, I was sleeping, and if I wasn't sleeping or eating, I was in the gym. I was the type of medic that, I may not be able to run 12 miles at the fastest pace, but I could run 12 miles with a dude on my back. I was about 210 pounds. I think I was edging close to like 9 to 12% body fat. And at the time I was squatting and deadlifting close to 600 pounds.
Wow.
And bench pressing just under 4 at the time. So my bench press was definitely the weakest event, but I prided myself on being able to, potentially extract any casualty, no matter their size, without the hindrance of their weight. I would train with big, heavy sandbags, and that was what I did. That was my Qatar trip, and then I would go into the SWIC, and I would hang out there for a little bit and learn a little bit about whatever missions our guys were getting ready to work on, or whatever they were doing downrange, and doing the paperwork to help facilitate those things. But Qatar was pretty uneventful. I went to another country. I bounced into another country from there for a very limited amount of time. Then I came back, and then I got in trouble. So don't do dumb things. Don't do steroids when you're in the military. It's not worth it.
Not worth it.
Not worth it.
You want to be natty. You don't want to be fake natty. You want to be natty.
Yeah. And luckily I had a good command at the time that was willing to go to bat for me. And instead of getting kicked out of USASOC entirely at the time and being sent to Big Army, they just moved me to a different company. They demoted me. They gave me some extra duty. I got a slap on my wrist, and they tried to help me recover my career. And that was one thing that I'll say about my early careers, that it seemed like people were trying to help you overcome those mistakes, versus my late career when, I got to the 82nd, and it was like people were just trying to throw you under the bus to make themselves look good.
Mm. There's plenty of those people in almost every organization. No different than the Air Force or fire department, police department. Those people are everywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's part of that learning experience in life. You learn as you grow that you're going to run into people that are in charge of you that suck, and you're going to run into people that are in charge of you that are really good. You can learn from both of them.
You
Learn
can.
from the
Yes.
people that suck, and you can learn from the people that are really good at their job. And I did. I learned a lot. I was never very good at politics in the military. I was always a swim upstream kind of guy. I never said the right thing at the right time. I always said the wrong thing at the right time.
Yeah. Okay.
And it didn't help my career out, So after 10 years, when I was in the 82nd and I realized that I'd kind of stalled out as far as I can go in the military, that's when I made the decision to kind of try to see where else life could take me. I had a wife at the time. I had a brand new baby girl. I'd lost a relationship with a child. I kind of gave it up, to be in the military and pursue that. And I didn't want to make that same mistake again. I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be a good dad. And part of that being a good dad meant that I couldn't be focused on trying to pursue whatever selfish ideations of my own perceived excellence, trying to go back down the rabbit hole of special forces or Delta or one of those other rabbit holes. I wasn't that guy. I was meant for different things. I was meant for a different purpose, and that's okay.
It is okay. So speaking of those other things, why don't you tell us about Ballash Woodworks and all of the good works that you're doing with Woodworks?
We kind of started out with a little bit. I started pittering around with wood in 2013. When I got out, we actually started out as Fayetteville Wood Art. So at the time we were taking pallet woods and my wife was painting flags and distressing them on these coffee tables. It was really kind of trendy at the time. And we were trying to pursue that trendy market. We were trying to pursue other markets. 2016, after I finished contracting, I really started letting those, not letting those, but those injuries from service and contracting started kind of really aggregating. And I found myself becoming a combat liability, not an asset. So I stepped away from contracting, and it took me a couple years of kind of learning myself again, learning to deal with the chronic pain and stuff. And during that time, I was slowly building my portfolio. So 2018, we rebranded to Ballash Woodworks from Fayetteville Wood Art. We established an LLC. I was working out of a one-car garage that was detached from my house. And I was building anything. I was taking jobs that I never could imagine doing and doing it confidently. Nope, I could do that. Because my brain understood how to take pieces of material like wood, build them into components like Legos, and how to assemble those Legos to build a project. That's all woodworking is more complex version of Legos that you can actually control the size of.
Okay.
So I always enjoyed mathematics. I always enjoyed architecture and engineering, and like I could see things like that in my head. And the more I started really pressing into what I really enjoyed doing, the custom furniture side, the more that I really started separating myself from, all the other hobbyist woodworkers in my area that was selling coffee tables for a couple $100. I was always trying to compete with those guys. And after a while, you learn that you don't need to compete with those guys because there's people out there with more money that are willing to pay more money for better stuff. And woodworking for me was always about trying to find the next thing that I need to learn. And then that transitions over to myself. Like, what's the next project? When I do this project, what's the next joint that I need to master? What's the next application of my tool that I need to kind of consider to get myself a better woodworker? Well, when I wake up in the morning, it's the same way. What can I do within myself so that when I go through this day, I can become a better version of myself? And I think when you start understanding the creative trades and that application and how it bleeds over to your own personal identity, that's where I wanted to kind of help give that to other people. We established the Artisans Outreach. My wife and I sat down for a long period of time, and we were like, you're getting this out of this. Well, she was talking to me at the time, and she's like, you seem to be getting a lot out of this, and you got some veterans coming by and they want to learn. Maybe you should let them come in and learn some stuff from you. Maybe you'll get an employee out of it. Maybe you'll get a new friend out of it, whatever it was. And so we started teaching people in my garage. So Ballash Woodworks at the core of it, it's a business that exists, and its purpose is to provide that connection and that community for other people that want to get into woodworking or creative trades. We're a launch platform and a mentorship for other creative tradesmen like Steve Chaddock of Spartan Customs. He came into my space. He rents a little space for me, and my customers get to know that he exists, and my customers are already used to buying a luxury good. So now when they're shopping with Steve, a custom leather worker, they already have this preconceived notion that we're going into a custom place. I should expect to pay luxury products and goods, right? So Ballash Woodworks produces the best furniture in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I would beg to say North Carolina. And we do that by pouring every piece of ourselves into every piece. We realize that our passion becomes our purpose, and our purpose is to help other people, and that's why we exist. We really want to try to make a greater impact on the military community, the veteran community, through the artisans outreach and the programs that we've stood up to bring people through our training programs.
That's awesome. It's I wish we were a little closer to Fayetteville, North Carolina. It's a bit of a haul from Hotlanta, but it is now on the list of places to visit, if you don't mind.
Not at all. Like I told you at the beginning, before we even started recording, you're always welcome. You come into town from one of our workshops, I'll make sure that you get one of our seats. So we received a grant from Warrior Rising and Goldman Sachs last year. We went to Salt Lake City, and we did a business pitch competition. During that business pitch comp, I placed second. I was runner up. But during my pitch, the branch manager, I think it is, or the branch CEO, whoever he is, Anthony Mirabile, he was a prior captain in the Army, and he was really kind of captured by the mission statement and what the effect that we're already having on the military community with our limited resources, and they awarded us with $20,000. So the $20,000 that we received, we took and we allocated $10,000 of that to free classes and workshops for veterans, active duty military, and family members. So we have 12 workshops in woodworking, 12 workshops in leather crafting throughout this year, and we seat three people at every workshop. So if you want to get registered for that, you can go to ballashwoodworks.com. You can click on the Artisans Outreach, fill out the form, let us know that you're interested in attending. You let us know a couple weeks ahead of time. We'll try to get you a visit up here for one of our classes, and we'll get you seated, man. You come up, you learn a little bit of woodworking, you have a good time. Then afterwards, we'll come back to the house for bourbon night. It's a good time. I just met another gentleman. We did the couples cutting board class for Valentine's Day. So we bring military couples in, and they get to build a cutting board together. We do catered lunch. So we brought in some finger foods from a deli and did like a charcuterie board. We played some games. They won a gift certificate. They played tic-tac-toe in a tournament style bracket. They connected with each other. They met other couples. They met other vets. And we had one gentleman that, at the end of it, we found out that he was his marriage is on the pathway to recovery, and that the event that we had hosted, him and his wife were able to engage with each other and really connect with each other in a way that they hadn't been able to in a really long time. And
that's awesome.
So when we look at what we're doing, that's the why behind what we're doing. What we're doing is keeping the doors open so those types of events can happen between a husband and a wife after years of deployments, or a father and a child, or a mother and a child after years of deployments can come back and connect around something where the symbology that was expressed to me in that moment was, they're taking these pieces and they're gluing them back together, just like they're taking the pieces of their marriage and gluing it back together, or that relationship, between a military member and their child, because they've been sent down range so many times, and every time they're home, the vet is struggling, they're stressed, they're thinking about getting back overseas because life is easier there. They're dealing with all the crap that happens at the flagpole, and then the kids are feeling the stress, and they're feeling like they can't talk to dad or mom. And, we see how those relationships play out. And then we wonder why, vets are alone after service and they're killing themselves. It's because they don't realize, they don't get to reconnect and establish a relationship with anybody in a meaningful way. And we hope that this is just one conduit, one application for that, through the woodworking and leatherworking. That's just the start. One day, the Artisans Outreach, the Artisans Mill, is going to have glass blowing and ceramics and pottery and painters and poetry and music and all these other coaches and mentors that are going to be able to connect vets with whatever their creative outlet is. Woodworking isn't for everybody, and that's something that I understood early, which is why the vision is bigger than woodworking. It's bigger than leather crafting. It's bigger than Ballash Woodworks. It's about really giving somebody a piece of themselves back after getting that creativity hammered out of them for years. Just conform. This is the way we do things. This is just how we do it. Don't think about the problem. Just, this is how I told you to do it. We don't get to express that creative side of ourselves. And some of us really need that. Some of us really need to work with our hands. Not everybody needs to go through their back to college and sit down at a desk and do some job there. Some of us just want to work with our hands. Some of us want to be electricians. Some of us want to be plumbers. Some of us need to do that.
Yeah, agreed. That's awesome. I don't know how I can help, but I want to help. So I'll figure
You
that
giving
out.
me this platform right here is helping enough.
Okay. Well,
Just giving me the opportunity to talk for a little bit, after some rabbits that we traced, to talk a little bit about my business and the mission and the impact that we're already having. As we go through this year, we're going to be separating the website. So when you want to learn more about the Artisans Outreach, you'll go to theartisansoutreach.com instead of ballashwoodworks.com. We're going to finalize the 501c3 formation, so we'll be able to take contributions from if you're not around here and you want to make an impact in what we're doing. You'll be able to sponsor a vet. Log in there, donate $100 for a vet to come to a workshop class, get them connected with another group of people that care about them, and who knows, maybe you save that person's life. We work with a number of other nonprofit organizations already, making a difference in veterans' lives. I think for marketing and publicity, I can't really mention names, or they'll probably sue the shit out of me because somehow it's like using their name for my success. But
right.
it's we partner with a lot of great people and we got a lot of local support, but coming up here soon, as we continue to grow, we're going to need more resources. So giving me the platform to talk about the Artisans Outreach and talk about Ballash Woodworks, I appreciate it. Every time I talk about what we're doing, a little bit more people gain recognition of what we're doing, and one person steps up to help in some way. We've had people following interviews and podcasts and news reach out to us and be like, hey, my father and my grandfather passed away years ago, and they got all this wood, or they got all these tools down in the basement, and you want them? Like, I don't know if I want them, but I'll come take a look at them, and sometimes you let them know, like, hey, these tools aren't really something that I could use personally, but we could sell them, and we can take that money and put it into seating veterans at our program for free, so instead of charging them $25 an hour for insurance and all the other type of stuff that, goes into making a woodworking project, maybe in the future, like the Auto Skill Center, it's only $9 an hour or $5 an hour, or maybe even free for the first 10 hours. The more funding, the more resources, the more recognition that we get for the Artisans Outreach, the more potential there is for us to continue growing. And my goal, and I believe the goal of the individual that's mentoring me over there at Goldman Sachs, is we want to see one of these training resource centers outside of every military installation. So when PFC Snuffy gets stationed here at Fort Bragg, right, and he spends 3 years here and then he gets sent to Fort Benning, well, there's another training resource center waiting for him at Fort Benning. So the 3 years of woodworking knowledge that he was able to pick up on weekends coming into my shop and spending $100 on wood and time in my shop versus $200 at the bar, now he's going on to Fort Benning. He's getting another 3 years experience. So by the time he separates, even if it's 6-8 years down the road, he's got 6-8 years of education, experience, and knowledge, hands-on, practical help with his skill that he can fall back on. If nothing else, maybe it's a little bit of side money while he gets his life together and figures out what they want to do. So that's my goal, is to see this program, this education facility that we have that started at Ballash Woodworks, go national.
That would be amazing.
they used to have these education. They used to have these resource centers on post, and they shut them all down. Now it has to be. I think it's they have to be able to fund themselves. So like the Auto Skills Center, enough people had to go and pay the hourly thing in order for it to be able to justify its existence. And when that stopped happening, they shut down the facilities. I think it's non-allocated funding or something like that. Politicians can tell you. I can't tell you.
I'm sure they could probably tell us a lot of things.
But they won't.
But they won't. No. But they won't. All right. Kurt, any last words of wisdom that you would like to share to the dozens of people that will see this?
I guess I would ask you to really identify what it is that you want to do with yourself. You know, a lot of us get drawn into this idea that in order to be successful, you have to follow certain pipelines. And when you follow those certain pipelines, your needs may be met as far as security, food, housing, clothes, all these basic human needs. But if it's not really feeding your soul, if it's not really feeding you from the inside and giving you that sense of fulfillment, try to find that. You know, even if it's just exploring it as a hobby on the weekends, invest in yourself. Find that one thing that fills you with happiness and press into it. Maybe one day you'll turn it into a business, maybe not, but just find it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great words. This is mine. Love doing this. And I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your stories with us, the deep ones and the long ones and the funny ones.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do. At every chance I get I'd like to talk with anybody about what we're doing. I'm really grateful for it. I'm grateful for you allowing me to come on here and sending me over the questionnaire. Your onboarding process was amazing. You made everything really easy. So I'm really grateful for that. And again, thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to your audience about Ballash Woodworks and the Artisans Outreach and a little bit about my funny military history and mistakes.
Yes. Well, we all learn from them, or we should. So, folks, this has been an amazing hour with an amazing person. I don't use that term very often. Kurt, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us. I personally am going to take a few things from this and hopefully help me grow and be a better me tomorrow. I really liked that message. So, folks, check out ballashwoodworks.com and Artisans Outreach when that.com is up and running. Find out how you can help, because this is an amazing mission, a very worthwhile mission, and to be a part of that would certainly fill your soul and help the souls of others. So again, folks, reach out to Kurt. Help him any way you can, and buddy, you're welcome to come back anytime. And when I hit the Fayetteville, North Carolina city limits, I'm going to be sending you a little 10 minutes out message, and it'll be Saturday night about 6:05 p.m. So that just in time for bourbon time.
Yep, starts at 7 p.m. Come on over.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, folks. Stay tuned for more. Come back and check us out. This was episode 29. Wait for episode 30. It's going to be great. Everybody stay safe. Keep your head on a swivel, and we'll catch you next time.
The Knock&Talk Show is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support. Tune in, share, and subscribe.